The villa was quiet, but the silence felt heavy, almost too heavy. Everyone sensed something was off, even before the cameras started rolling. The night before had ended in awkward goodnights and tense smiles, the kind that hide bigger truths. Early whispers had already begun spreading, and Yandy's absence wasn't helping. People were asking questions in low voices, wondering why she hadn't come down for breakfast or joined the group chat the producers had set up. The crew kept exchanging glances, sensing the tension building like static in the air. Mendeecees, trying to play it cool, sat off to the side, scrolling his phone, pretending not to notice how everyone was watching him. But deep down, he knew the trip that was supposed to bring peace and bonding was slowly turning into something else entirely. Then there was Zane, unusually quiet but clearly restless, pacing between the patio and the kitchen like someone fighting an internal storm. His eyes told a story his mouth wasn't ready to reveal, not yet. Even the producers felt it, the rare kind of unease that signals a major on-camera explosion. A few cast members whispered, "You feel that? Something's coming." They didn't know how right they were, because once the morning truly started, once the sun hit that glassy blue pool and the crew called rolling, the day would change everything. Bonds would be tested, secrets would surface, and by nightfall, nobody in that villa would look at Yandy, Zane, or Mendeecees the same way again. The setup was perfect, too perfect, for reality TV chaos. And as the tension simmered, the viewers at home would soon realize this wasn't just drama. This was the calm before the storm, the silence before Zane decided to drop the bomb that would shake everyone to the core. It started like any other morning, sunlight pouring through the tall villa windows, cast members moving sluggishly after a long night of filming. But there was an unmistakable chill in the air, even in the Caribbean heat. Zane sat at the table, quiet, staring into his coffee like it held the answer to something deeper. Mendeecees walked in, nodding casually, unaware of what was about to unfold. Cameras were already in position, mics live, and producers pretending to sip water while waiting for that unpredictable moment that makes reality TV gold. Then out of nowhere, Zane spoke. His tone was low but deliberate, cutting through the morning chatter like a blade. "So, since everyone keeps asking, yeah, I saw Yandy, and not just saw her." The entire room froze. You could hear the hum of the AC over the stunned silence. One of the cast members gasped. Another dropped a spoon. Mendeecees' head snapped up, his jaw tightening as if bracing for impact. Zane continued, eyes locked on him, refusing to flinch. "I wasn't going to say anything, but I think the truth deserves daylight. You all think you know what's going on, but you don't." The energy shifted instantly. Producers leaned forward. The crew exchanged quick looks. This was it. The bomb. Mendeecees tried to speak, but words failed him. His expression changed from confusion to disbelief, then anger. "You better be careful what you say," he warned quietly. Zane didn't blink. "I have already said enough." Gasps echoed. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." And just like that, breakfast turned into a battlefield. Phones were grabbed, mics picked up every shaky breath, and reality blurred with raw emotion. This was no storyline. It was personal, messy, and about to explode across every screen. The moment Zane dropped that truth, nothing, and no one, would ever be the same again. The villa erupted into chaos seconds after Zane's words hit the air. Shock rippled through every corner of the room like a sudden wave crashing on calm water. Some tried to play it cool, while others leaned forward, eager to catch every syllable that came next. You could almost hear hearts pounding behind those poker faces. Mendeecees sat frozen, his expression unreadable but his eyes burning with disbelief. A few castmates exchanged quick glances, silently asking, "Did he really just say that?" Someone whispered, "Not here, not like this." But it was too late. The damage had been done. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the intensity of every movement, every breath, every twitch of emotion. The crew members, though trained to stay detached, couldn't help but watch in awe as real drama unfolded. One of the producers muttered under her breath, "This is the moment." Outside, the morning sun felt blinding, yet inside the villa, The atmosphere turned thick and heavy, like the air before a storm. Some of the women backed away from the table, murmuring about how Yandy would react once she found out. Others whispered theories, connecting dots from previous nights, strange looks, and private talks. The realization began to spread. This wasn't just gossip. Zane's statement hinted at something real. Mendeecees finally stood up, his chair scraping the floor, his silence louder than words. He didn't yell or argue, he just walked away, jaw clenched, leaving behind a room full of whispers and worried glances. Zane watched him go but didn't take back a single word. Instead, he leaned back, exhaling as if relieved to finally unburden himself. It was bound to come out, he muttered, half to himself, half to the crew. In the distance, a producer's headset crackled. "Get a camera on Mendez. Follow him now." Within minutes, the entire villa turned into a maze of tension. Doors slammed, mics picked up hushed arguments, and what began as breakfast had spiraled into full-blown reality chaos. The cast didn't know where to look, at Zane, at each other, or at the mess that was now unavoidable. And somewhere upstairs, the sound crew caught a single door creaking open, Yandy's room. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway before Mendeecees appeared again. His calm facade was gone, replaced by a mix of anger, confusion, and disbelief. The producers didn't even need to cue the cameras. They were already rolling. Zane sat still, his confidence wavering slightly now that the man he just exposed was standing right in front of him. "You really want to do this here?" Mendeecees asked, voice low but full of restrained fury. Zane didn't back down. "I didn't want to do this, but truth doesn't wait for perfect timing." The room tensed again. Every cast member froze, afraid to breathe too loudly. You could see the conflict in Mendez's eyes. He was torn between defending himself and demanding answers about what Zane had just implied about Yandy. He stepped closer, closing the distance until only a few feet separated them. "What are you talking about exactly?" Mendez pressed, his tone sharp. Zane's reply was calm but deadly. "You already know. She was with me. Maybe not how you think, but enough for me to say something." The words sliced through the air. Gasps erupted. One cast member covered her mouth. Another whispered, "Oh, this is bad." Mendeecees took a deep breath, trying to stay composed, but his hands gave him away. They were shaking. "Don't play with me, bro," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "If you're lying, this is going to go somewhere you don't want to go." Zane met his stare. "Then check her. You'll see I'm not lying." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the background music stopped as if the villa itself were listening. Then, breaking through the tension, Mendeecees turned toward the producers. "You knew about this?" he demanded. One of them raised a hand cautiously. "We just found out, at the same time as you." The crew's unease was obvious, but the cameras never stopped rolling. Zane looked around, realizing the weight of what he'd unleashed. "I didn't do this to hurt you," he said quietly. "I did it because everyone's been pretending." Mendeecees gave a small, bitter laugh. "Pretending? You don't even know what's real." And just like that, he stormed out, pushing past the cameras and into the open courtyard. The crew scrambled to follow as he disappeared around the corner. Zane stayed seated, visibly shaken but defiant, whispering, "It had to be said." Behind him, cast members started talking over each other, half in disbelief, half in panic. The first confrontation had happened, and it had left the villa fractured, uneasy, and ready for the next explosion that was sure to come. Once Mendeecees stormed out, the villa felt like a shaken snow globe, quiet but full of swirling tension. All eyes turned to Zane, who sat still at the center of it all, head down, hands clasped tightly. A producer's voice broke the silence, asking softly, "Zane, can you explain what you meant?" He hesitated, exhaled, then finally looked up, his expression a mix of regret and defiance. "Look, I didn't plan to say all that. But when everyone keeps acting like Yandy's this perfect image, like nothing ever happens, it starts to eat at you. I'm not saying she cheated, but I am saying something happened between us that crossed a line." His words hit the group like another explosion. His words hit the group like another explosion. A few castmates shifted uncomfortably while one whispered, "He's really saying this on camera?" Zane nodded as if hearing the thought. "Yeah, I am. Because off-camera truth still matters, right?" He leaned forward, eyes locked on the nearest lens. "We were close. Closer than we should have been. Maybe it was emotional. Maybe it wasn't physical. But it blurred the line." Gasps echoed again. Someone muttered, "That's even worse." Zane's tone grew quieter, more reflective now. It wasn't about feelings. It was about comfort. She was going through something and I was there. Things got too personal and I backed away. But Mendeecees deserves to know what kind of connection it was. That's why I said what I said. The room sat in stunned silence. Even the crew froze, unsure how far to let him go. The camera panned across cast members exchanging alarmed looks, each processing what they'd just heard. A few murmured, "This is going to blow up online." Zane's confession wasn't detailed enough to be proof, but it was suggestive enough to ignite chaos. And that's exactly what happened. One of the producers whispered into her mic, "Get Yandy's team on standby. She's not going to like this." Zane rubbed his temples, suddenly exhausted, as though releasing the truth had drained him completely. "I didn't do it for clout," he said softly. "I did it because secrets rot people from the inside." His voice cracked on the last word. The camera zoomed in, raw emotion, unfiltered. The villa wasn't just a set anymore. It was a confession chamber. And in that moment, Zane's truth didn't just expose Yandy. It divided everyone who'd just heard it. Within minutes, producers swarmed the room like first responders at the scene of a disaster. The director's voice came through the comms. "Lock cameras 3 and 4, follow Zane." One producer tried to calm him, saying, "We need to step outside for a minute, okay? Let's take a breather." But Zane refused to move. "You wanted reality? This is it. Don't stop rolling now." The cast exchanged nervous glances as production assistants rushed to separate groups and pull mics for private talks. Someone was crying off camera. Another castmate whispered into a mic, "They're going to shut this scene down." But the producers knew they couldn't. Not yet. The chaos was too real, too valuable. Still, the network had limits, and they were being tested in real time. One of the executive producers, visibly tense, finally stepped into frame. A rare move. "Guys, this isn't productive. We need everyone to cool off. No accusations, no yelling." But it was too late. Mendeecees' voice echoed from outside. "Tell him to say that to my face." Everyone turned as he re-entered, anger radiating off him. Cameras swung toward him like magnets. "Are you still talking?" he shouted. Zane stood but didn't step forward. The producers moved quickly, placing themselves between the two men. "We're cutting here," one said, but neither man listened. "You went on camera and played with my family," Mendeecees growled. Zane's face tightened. "I told the truth." "Your version of it," Mendeecees snapped back. The argument grew louder, overlapping with crew voices yelling, "Back up!" and "Cut audio." But none of it mattered. The tension was electric, unstoppable. Then, in a last desperate attempt to contain it, a producer raised her hand and shouted, "Everyone stop talking!" The room froze. The cameras stopped rolling for now. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by ragged breathing and the sound of the ocean outside. The chaos had been paused, not ended. Because everyone knew, once those cameras came back on, the storm would pick up right where it left off. Yandy wasn't in the villa when it all went down, but word travels fast, especially when cameras are involved. She had gone out earlier for a spa segment, her phone off, completely unaware that her name was now the center of a reality TV earthquake. But the moment her driver's phone started buzzing with alerts and messages from production, she knew something was wrong. "You might want to check in," the producer texted cryptically. Within minutes, Yandy's calm morning turned into confusion and dread. She called one of the cast members who hesitated before whispering, "Girl." Zane said something, "About you," and Mendeecees walked out. Silence filled the car. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He what?" The reality of it hit her like a punch to the chest. Cameras caught her face as it shifted from shock to controlled fury. "Turn the car around," she ordered. The return drive felt endless, every mile adding to the tension twisting inside her. When she finally stepped out of the van, producers swarmed, trying to brief her. "Yandy, before you go in, just know, it got heated." She brushed them off. "I don't care how heated it got. I care what was said." Her heels clicked sharply against the tile as she entered the villa. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Some castmates avoided eye contact. Others stared, waiting for her reaction. The energy in the room turned electric, every camera refocusing on her. "Where's Mendez?" she demanded. No one answered. "And where's Zane?" Still silence. One producer tried to ease in. "Yandy, we just want to make sure you're ready to—" "I'm ready," she cut him off coldly. "I'm more than ready." Her voice carried the tone of a woman used to holding her own, no matter the storm. She turned toward the patio, her expression unreadable, but her walk purposeful. You could feel the weight of the moment, the calm before confrontation. The cast watched, whispering behind their hands. She's about to shut this down. And as Yandy pushed open the glass door and stepped outside toward the chaos she didn't start but was now forced to face, the entire villa held its breath. The queen had arrived, and she wasn't coming to play defense. They found each other near the courtyard, away from the crew, though microphones still caught every word. The tension was thick enough to taste. Yandy stood with arms crossed, jaw tight, while Mendeecees paced back and forth like a man trying to contain a storm. "So you just walked out when someone threw dirt on my name?" she started, voice sharp but steady. Mendeecees stopped pacing. "He didn't just throw dirt, Yandy. He said there was something between you two. Emotional or not, that's crossing the line." Her eyes narrowed. "You really believe Zane over me?" Mendes didn't answer right away. "I don't know what to believe right now." That sentence hit harder than any accusation. "After everything we've built, you don't know what to believe?" She shot back. "You think I'd risk all that for attention?" The sound of her frustration echoed across the courtyard. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You weren't here." You didn't see how he said it. He wasn't playing. He looked dead serious. Yandy stepped closer, her tone turning icy. "He looked serious because he's lying with confidence. You of all people should know how that works." The silence that followed was heavy. Cameras zoomed from a distance, capturing the raw emotion between two people who had weathered everything but trust. "You think I'm stupid?" Mendeecees asked finally. "You think I can't tell when something's off?" Yandy softened slightly, her anger breaking into disbelief. "No, I think you're hurt, and you're letting somebody else's words decide how you see me." He turned his back for a moment, struggling for composure. "I just need the truth," he muttered. "You already have it," she replied, her voice trembling now. "There was never anything with Zane, nothing real, nothing to question." A single tear slipped down her cheek, though she quickly wiped it away. For a moment he stood still, hands on his knees, the weight of doubt pressing hard. "Then why would he say it?" he finally asked. Yandy looked away, exhaling. "Because chaos gets more airtime than peace." The words lingered in the air, bitter but true. The cameras panned slowly out, capturing them standing feet apart but emotionally miles away. Neither moved, neither spoke, just silence, two people broken by a truth that was never theirs to begin with. And somewhere beyond the courtyard, the rest of the cast waited, whispering, knowing this was just the first round. Knowing this was just the first round. The drama didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It exploded online overnight. As soon as the episode teaser leaked, fans flooded social media, dissecting every second of the confrontation. Hashtags like Bosher Yandy Zane Truth, Surf Mendeecees Meltdown, and Villa Confession started trending within hours. Clips of Zane's truth moment were reposted across TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram Reels, with users debating whether he was being honest or just stirring the pot for attention. Fan pages went into overdrive, analyzing Yandy's facial expressions frame by frame, claiming they could see the guilt in her eyes, or the pain in Mendez's body language. Meanwhile, Yandy's supporters rallied fiercely, flooding her latest posts with messages like, "We believe you. Queen, and don't let lies break your peace. Mendeecees' comments section turned into a battlefield, half urging him to trust his wife, half calling him blind to the truth. Even former cast members began weighing in, some cryptically posting about karma and truth always surfacing. The network's PR team tried to get ahead of the storm by releasing a teaser for the next episode, promising emotional clarity and shocking truths revealed. But the damage was already done. What started as a heated villa argument had turned into a cultural moment, a storyline too real, too raw for viewers to ignore. The internet had chosen sides, and every hour the debate only grew louder. Inside the villa, though, things were eerily quiet. The cast avoided eye contact, the producers whispered in corners, and somewhere behind the scenes, Yandy sat alone, scrolling through comments that reminded her this wasn't just a TV show anymore. It was public judgment, and the world was watching every move. The next evening, the producers decided it was time for damage control. The tension between Yandy, Mendeecees, and Zane had reached a point where silence wasn't an option. A mediation scene was set up, soft lighting, candles flickering, and a carefully arranged seating circle to make things look intimate for the cameras. The goal was simple: let them talk calmly on record. But nothing about it felt calm. Mendeecees arrived first, sitting stiffly, arms crossed. Zane followed a few minutes later, expression unreadable, while Yandy came last, elegant, composed, but clearly holding back fire. The air was thick with unresolved words. A producer's voice came through softly. "We just want honesty tonight. No yelling, no blame. Just truth." The silence stretched before Yandy finally spoke. "I don't know what's real anymore," she said, eyes fixed on the floor. "This started as entertainment, but it's my life people are playing with." Zane shifted uneasily. "I didn't mean to destroy anything," he said quietly. "But what happened between us? Those conversations, those late nights. They were real, Yandy." Her eyes snapped up. "Real to you, maybe, but not like that." Mendeecees' jaw clenched as he listened, every muscle in his face tightening. "You're saying nothing happened," he said flatly. "I'm saying it was friendship twisted by perception," she replied firmly. The mediator tried to redirect the heat. "Let's focus on what each of you needs moving forward." Yandy took a breath. "I need my husband to trust me." Mendeecees hesitated, his voice low. "I need to know this won't happen again." Zane added quietly, "I just want peace, and for the truth to stop being weaponized." The candles flickered as if reacting to the weight of their words. The scene ended not with resolution but reflection. The cameras pulled back slowly, capturing three people sitting together yet miles apart, bound by truth, tangled in misunderstanding, and surrounded by the quiet hum of reality TV trying to heal what it broke. When the mediation ended, the villa was silent. No shouting, no tears, just the heavy stillness of emotional exhaustion. Yandy went straight to her room, closing the door behind her, while Mendeecees lingered by the pool, staring into the reflection of the night sky. The air between them had shifted, no longer explosive, but tense in a quieter, colder way. Castmates whispered among themselves, trying to guess whether the couple would make it through the storm. Behind the scenes, producers debated if the confrontation had gone too far, with one muttering, "We wanted drama, not destruction." Yandy later confided in her close friend from the cast, saying, "It's like my heart's in two places, one wanting to fight for him, one just wanting peace." Meanwhile, Mendeecees vented privately to a camera, his tone raw and low. "I love her, but every time I think I understand her, something new hits me." The next morning, breakfast was awkward. No one dared to mention Zane, who had decided to keep his distance and skipped the meal entirely. Instead, everyone pretended to be normal. Coffee, small talk, nervous smiles. But the cracks were visible. The show's director pulled Yandy aside and asked if she wanted to continue filming. Her response was calm but firm. "I started this to show love and growth. If it turns into pain and doubt, maybe it's time to step back." That one line captured the essence of her turmoil, a woman torn between her personal truth and her public image. By nightfall, both Yandy and Mendeecees were faced with a decision: stay and finish the show for closure, or leave and protect what little peace remained. Their silence at dinner said it all. No decision yet, but one was coming soon. And whichever path they chose, it would change everything. The following day began differently. No camera chaos, no group tension. Just Yandy and Mendeecees sitting quietly in the courtyard, the morning sun cutting through their stillness. After a long night of reflection, both knew they couldn't keep circling the same pain. Yandy spoke first, voice trembling but honest. "I can't defend myself anymore. All I can do is show you who I am." Mendeecees didn't interrupt. He just nodded slowly, the anger in his eyes replaced by fatigue. "I don't want to keep fighting," he finally said, "but I need to feel like we're on the same team again." Those words broke the tension enough for a fragile peace to settle between them. They walked together around the villa garden, avoiding cameras as much as possible. There was no grand apology, no cinematic hug, just two people realizing that silence sometimes says more than arguments ever could. Later, Yandy helped Zane pack his things quietly, their conversation polite but distant. He apologized once more before leaving, saying softly, "I didn't mean for this to go that far." She nodded without looking up. When he left, it felt like a door closing, not just for Zane, but for the version of Yandy that had carried everyone else's emotions. That night, she and Mendeecees shared dinner privately. No crew, no producers, just them. The silence was heavy but not hostile. Between quiet bites and unspoken thoughts, they found something resembling understanding. Not forgiveness yet, but acceptance. It was the kind of truce that doesn't need words, only presence. For the first time in days, Mendeecees reached across the table and held her hand. The gesture wasn't dramatic. It was tired, real, and full of history. Whatever came next, they would face it not as a couple in crisis, but as two people still trying. As the sun set on the final night in the villa, the cast gathered one last time for closing confessionals. Each person reflected on what they had witnessed: betrayal, misunderstanding, and the complicated layers of love under pressure. Yandy sat in her chair, makeup soft, expression calm. "I learned that sometimes your biggest test isn't about who you love. It's about how much truth you can carry without breaking," she said, eyes glistening. Mendeecees followed, voice steady but emotional. "You can't control stories people tell about you. You just have to live your truth louder." Clips of their separate interviews were cut together with flashbacks of laughter, arguments, and the infamous villa confrontation. Zane's final words were brief. Maybe honesty came too late, but it came. As the outro music began to rise, the episode ended not with a reunion but with reflection. Lingering shots of the ocean waves crashing against the shore and candles flickering out one by one. The narrator's voice delivered the final line. "In the game of love and loyalty, the truth is never simple. It's lived, tested, and revealed." Then came the fade out to black. If you followed this roller coaster of emotions, tell us what you think. Was Yandy right to defend her silence? Did Zane speak out of guilt or truth? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into reality's most complicated stories. Because in this world, the drama never truly ends. Drama never truly ends.